So right now I have 2 lots. And that would be the 3rd one.
Yeah, there's a lot of
See, when
stuff
I bought
going
my
on.
house,
I know we had,
a green room.
Mike was gone out yesterday, or one was out yesterday, yeah, Mike was gone yesterday too.
Like no Kowski?
Yeah.
Oh, he was sick too?
Yeah, or some of our kids, or no, yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay, what is your, okay, you got your right behind me.
Hey,
and
hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
And then where's the 3rd spot?
Right on the freeway. It's just a little grind.
Oh, that's
It's
Vaughn.
a
Is that right behind Jerry?
Isn't that Vaughn Stocky?
No.
Oh, that's Miller.
Yeah, that's Mr.
Look
Miller.
up in here, cause I know where we are here.
This happened.
So you get your signatures?
Hey, we're getting some
Still
papers.
working on it. What?
Did you bring any papers?
I did actually.
Yay! How many? Good, good boy.
I made a bunch of my own copies.
Do you want the folder back? Oh my God. Where do I have a pen?
We can find one. We'll find one.
Yeah, let me check here. God, you should have one. I got it.
We got a couple minutes still.
Oh, look at this little everybody's got little Christmas trees. Aren't these
Yeah,
cute?
I have to do is Brad did it.
Did you do this, Brad? You should have taken it. Yeah, I did.
There were chocolates with them Thursday when Gary and Jim ate them all before they were
That's right.
Yeah, nothing's gonna stick around.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. Come on, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. That's fine. So this is his one. See, that got cut off.
Okay,
On the freeway.
Frank?
okay, so that's this, so you wanna.
No, I don't know.
And then.
I mean, I know of them. You know,
Yeah, they, I mean, they can't obviously
So I'll,
create more ponds without approvals.
Yeah, so they can, as long as the surface area remains the same, we don't have to worry.
Yeah, all they're doing is dredging and cleaning.
Okay, cause I just got the notice, I think they tried to do it as part of the DNR, so that's why I was wondering, nobody contacted me.
Yeah, I don't know anything that would be required unless they expanding or deepening them or whatever, because then it would be county, it would be us for grading.
No. Never. My husband's one of the biggest violators in Vernon. He's penalized all the time.
So I bought up to here, and then I bought up to you.
Okay, that's
So
silent.
and this is, Mary's go up to here. He's cut out in the square.
So, Brad, you don't mind if we
You
table
have
them?
to still go up
just
and
table
carry
them.
in the back.
Yeah, I'm all the way to the freeway.
All good?
And then I'm gonna be getting that.
So, okay, now that's.
Kept waiting to see the revised.
I didn't know if you guys agreed,
That's gonna-
but I wanted to show, I was gonna show
Okay, wanna ask
Sue a trick so she could help. She could, and then Brad, I gotta do
Isn't
it,
that,
you know,
is
like
that
little.
where?
Yeah, I don't, she's been typing them up, so.
Yeah, 'cause she had said, I don't know, I said, here, let me, and I'll show you on my shoulder, just so,
Oh,
it's so
And
easy.
people can go in there
You know.
and hunt or whatever,
Mhm.
without permission.
Yeah, spell check doesn't work.
Yeah,
I'm in
the
trouble.
only way they can walk is.
I'll never forget in one of the bulletins, hi, Michael,
So it's-
Mike,
if you're looking at
I
the
put,
walk,
that parishioners could participate in, it's supposed to be
As long as
six,
they can stand.
and I
2 foot like
typed
that.
in sex, and it went out that way.
well, that's like every time they paint the water tower in Sussex.
Yeah, that's right, sex on the.
Either they do it backwards or they dart in the middle or something, you know, it's like, geez, you guys could have figured this out once or twice already.
Yeah, and they had a female village president at the time.
That happened twice.
Oh, did it?
Oh, yeah?
I just know when that, I can't remember what her name was, but then she moved to the town of Waukesha.
No, this
Which,
one
you
is
know,
cul-de-sac. Oh.
My God, did you watch the Village of Big Bend meeting?
No,
See, originally.
so I had some excitement in my
I
life.
didn't get a chance to watch
Oh
it,
my
but I've heard from
God.
aside from Facebook.
Horrible. The fire, that Anderson guy resigned.
Made it turn.
That's probably a good
When this
thing.
neighborhood was built,
Holy You wanna watch the Village of Big Bend YouTube meeting, their last meeting? They put you guys to shame. You guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's on.
don't be like that, please. Please. Please don't.
Go ahead.
Let them be the dumpster fire of the of the county.
1.2 million got worth of damage on that house.
It doesn't. So I talked to Vinny. Well, I heard Alex on the radio, and he said there was smoke coming from the raft or the attic. And Vinny said he was there, and the fireplace, the rafters were already starting to bow in. And then Vinny's like, the house was made with I-joists, so if that gets all wet, then those can warp and get bad. So depending on how much water there was, but they called a ton of people.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Kettle Moraine.
Tess Corners was there, Western
Muskego.
Lakes, City of Waukesha, Town of Waukesha.
Yeah.
Village of Waukesha.
Big Bend.
Big Bend.
I don't know if New Berlin was there.
Tess Corners.
McGuanago.
Yeah, McGuanago.
Because I think our guys were out on another call.
Yeah, they were on Maple for Porter.
Oh.
They couldn't find the porter. They had a call when Porter fell. And they broke into the house. You know, they couldn't find him. So then they were on there, and McGuanago beat them to the fire, but our guys were right behind.
That's it.
I could hear.
If they're on another call, it's not a big deal if they're first or last.
Yeah. And we've done that for McGuanago.
That's what mutual aid's for.
And they I shouldn't say they like that. Beetle.
When you're on another call, that's what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
but that doesn't surprise me. I
don't
mean,
think the town was like that.
with how those houses are built,
God.
modern construction.
Well, and I heard Patrick yelling to the cops, you know what those border guys, you need a permit for that. You know, those the ambulance, fire truck chasers that, wanted to board up the house after a fire. Patrick was using profanity, not on the radio. Dispatcher said.
That brings up, anyone heard anything about Syrian East Market?
He's still working.
They're working on
insurance.
it. They have a building permit.
Yeah.
All right, kids. 6 o'clock. You guys ready to go? Ready? I'm going to call the Village of Vernon Plan Commission and Village Board meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, December 13th at 6 o'clock at the Vernon Village Hall. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Brad, could you please do a roll call and open meeting compliance?
President Shu,
I'm here.
Trustee Solani is excused. Trustee Finch.
Here.
Trustee Newman.
Here.
Trustee Millies.
Here.
Commissioner Nowak.
Present.
Commissioner Rinaldi.
Here.
Commissioner Alex.
Here.
This meeting is noticed and posted according to law.
The first agenda item we have is a public hearing, so I'm going to read the public notice. This notice is hereby given that a joint public hearing by the Village of Vernon Board and Village of Vernon Plan Commission will be held on Wednesday, December 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Vernon Village Hall located at W249 South 8910 Center Drive to consider a request for Adam Miller for the property owned by Adam and Sarah Miller and Vaughn and Lori Stockey located at South 88 W26675 Danielson Street with a McGuanago mailing. The property is identified as tax key numbers VNT 2094-205 and VNT 2094-206, and a portion of VNT 2093-989-001 north of I-43 to amend the Village of Vernon zoning map. The request rezoning for the properties totaling 5.30 acres is from a combination of Residential District R1, Rural Residential District RRD5, and Mini Farm District A5 to Residential R1. Just so everyone knows, what I'd like is, Sean, I know I'm going to have you give the report, and does Mr. Miller is he the petitioner here?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Miller is the petitioner, but I can give the overview and then he can provide any additional information
Yeah, so that what I just wanted everybody to know, Sean's gonna give an overview to the public so everybody knows what's happening. And if you feel at any point after he's done, if you feel that you need to add something or whatever you want, then we're gonna open up for public comment, and the plan commission and village board will comment, and you'll have a chance to comment. And so I'll remind you of the procedure, but Sean, if you could give an overview of the proposal?
Sure, essentially, if you look on the TV screen above, here's the property in question. This is the stock property, and it's split by I-43. I'm assuming it was a remnant. When the freeway went through, that the property was physically divided, but it wasn't legally divided in terms of two lots. So this is the 1 acre piece that is being split off. Again, that's the stock property, and then the Miller property are these two lots that exist here in the existing subdivision. And so essentially they'd be combining this 1 acre with their two individual lots for a total of 5.3 acres. So ultimately, the whole goal here is to do a certified survey map, split that off, attach to the property. But before we do that, we have to rezone the properties because if I turn on the zoning layer, it's loading up here. The properties are zoned a combination of R1, which you see in yellow here. There's a little bit of RRD5 that comes through, and there's a little bit of A5. When we cleaned up the village ordinances and we adopted our own shoreline zoning ordinance and map, we thought we had all the properties and we focused in the shoreline areas, but there looked like there were a few properties that still had split zoning on them. And so if we're going to be combining this property, and this property together, we want them to be all under the same zoning, which would be the R1 zoning that's consistent with the rest of the subdivision here. So that's what we're looking at tonight is the rezoning. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. The plan has this plan for low density residential. The stock property on the other side of the freeway is planned for rural residential, which is a 5 acre minimum. So the land division as well as the rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan. I just guess I have a few comments in relation to the ultimate land division, which won't be acted on tonight, but definitely is part of the discussion, is that the lot shape. So the lot shape is going to generally be, I'll bring up the CSN here if you look at it. Our land division ordinance generally likes to see a rectangular or pie-shaped lot, but in this case, it's sort of unavoidable. It is illogical. This triangle doesn't make any sense to be part of the overall lot on the south side of the freeway, and so combining with this lot doesn't make the greatest shape, but it's something that the Plan Commission will have to consider. There are environmentally sensitive areas in the property. There's isolated natural resource, and there's some wetland in here as well. Mr. Miller isn't proposing any development as part of this, but we want those to be at least shown on the CSM, the boundary for the isolated natural resource area as well as the wetland. And that will require a waiver from the Plan Commission unless you want to see the wetland delineated at this time. So when the CSM comes back, they would be looking for a waiver from the wetland delineation. I have a couple of notes here, some technical notes for the CSM from our surveyor, but we don't have to get into that at this point. So that's all I have for the overview on this page.
Mr. and Mrs. Miller, is there anything Mr. Miller, anything you wanted to add above and beyond what Sean indicated, or does Zaki?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay, and before I send, Mr. Stack?
Yeah, you're not rezoning my portion south of the interstate.
That's a great question. No, that'll stay zoned as what it is. That'll be zone A5, it's just the new properties that'll be zoned.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just wanted to check that, didn't you?
I did.
Little land division going on there, and I'm. You're the public, so John, I know, we know who you are, but just state your name, and full name and address, so Brad has it for public comments. Don, would you mind coming up here just so the audience can hear you? Then we're gonna have you sing. Okay, thank you, Mike, for getting a chair.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
It might be kind of low. Yeah.
So Donna, if you wouldn't mind, just state your full name and address for.
Donna Hefkin, W267 S8940 Carlstad Drive. What I'm interested in, if you're gonna rezone this as R1, could there be a future of rezoning it as commercial?
Uh,
And if it's wetlands, and you have to go to the state of Wisconsin to have that, changed to anything?
No, so part of your first question, the controlling factor as to whether something can be commercial or not is based on the comprehensive plan. And the plan itself has this whole area as residential. So we can rezone it to R1 because the comprehensive plan basically has the density category that allows the R1 zoning, but it can't be rezoned commercial unless the comprehensive plan will change to say it would be commercial. And there'd be no reason to have this change to commercial based on its location as to where it is. Your second question about the wetlands, we just want to see the wetlands noted on the property. The state would only be involved if the petitioner was looking to fill or grade the wetlands, and the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers would have to grant them a permit to do so. But they're not asking to do that. They're not asking to do anything with the property that's not already done. In fact, the whole triangle piece of property that's being added to the Miller property is virtually entirely wet in an isolated natural resource area. You can't do anything with it. So,
There's another section that's county property, correct?
to the north.
To the north.
Right.
Now, is Adam requesting that property for ownership?
No, it's just this little triangle piece here that's
Okay,
being added.
that's the only area that's affected.
That's right.
The rest stays as county.
Yeah, it stays as R1, it'll be R1 zoning, and essentially the areas that's isolated natural resource area and wetland has a zoning overlay that sits on top of it, that's called, environmental corridor. So that zoning stays, that applies, that means you can't develop it, you can't build it.
Okay, because we're concerned in the neighborhood.
Sure.
What, we've all been there so many years, and now we
Oh,
want
come
to
on,
see
Donna.
what's going on.
You're only 12, geez.
Yeah, Karen. Okay.
Thank you, Donna. Are there any other public comments at this point? And like I said, we'll come back to the public, but what I'd like to do is ask the Plan Commission and or Village Board if there's any comments. I'm sure you all read Sean's review, and he did a really great job. Commissioner Nowak.
Question, anybody know how we got an accessory building on that lot?
Good question, I don't know, but I will say that the combination of the lots in the one lot will alleviate that nonconformity, so.
My second question, is there a permit for it?
I don't know.
Well, if I had to guess, I could tell you the building is, and it's not fenced. That is not too bad. But I know who's been through that too, but, we can check into that. I mean, not right now, but.
We could, I guess, I'm curious as to how it would affect the rezoning of the certified survey.
That's a question coming from a former building inspector.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Clarification, the building was there when I bought the property.
Yeah.
I didn't build it.
Not saying it's your fault.
Any other questions or comments? I know the Plan Commission and Board have read Sean's comments. Any other questions from the Plan Commission or Village Board? This is a pretty easy one. Are there any other questions or comments from the public before we close the public hearing? There are none. Sean, anything to add, or Brad?
No, I just say that my conditions are in the staff report. Essentially, the conditions are two things. One is that it's rezoned to, the 5.3 acres is zoned to R1. The existing overlays, as I mentioned, will remain. And that the rezone would be conditioned on the approval of the 2-lot certified survey map, because that's what it's going to apply to. So it won't be in full force and effect until that happens, and then the reimbursement of expenses. So those are the only 3 conditions.
All right. So if there's no other comments, I'm going to close the public hearing at this point, and then we're moving on to discussion and possible action on the request that I just read previously. At this point in time, I would ask the Plan Commission if they have a recommendation to the Village Board for the request of Adam and Sarah Miller in regards to the stock property.
Can we do that later, under 6?
We are in 6.
Oh.
Sorry, dear. I'm just moving. Come on, let's go. I gotta go Christmas shopping. No, I'm kidding.
It's training for next month.
Yeah, I closed the public hearing, and now we're acting. And I know, just for the record, I know the Plan Commission is probably not gonna have a lot of comments. Number one, this is a pretty easy one, and number two, Sean, as always, your staff report is, extremely comprehensive. So.
The only comment I have is that It seems like a really good idea, what they're proposing. It solves two problems of having a lot divided by the expressway
Right.
and with the accessory building on a separate lot, which would be non-conforming.
Right, right. And Sean, just a clarification, there's no, at this point, no review of the waiver modification, wetland delineation, or is that?
No, we would handle that as part of the certified survey map.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good. Well, I'm looking for a motion from the plan commission. Is there a motion from the plan commission? A recommendation to the village board. As, Sean stated, there would just be, if the plan commission is in agreement, there's just the 3 conditions that, were in your staff recommendations, as Sean stated to you, and it would be a recommendation of approval, for the rezoning for Adam Miller for the property located, as I stated in the public hearing notice. Is there a motion to that effect?
I will so move.
Motion by Commissioner Noack, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rinaldi. Discussion from the Plan Commission. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Village Board, is there a concurrence from the Village Board for the Plan Commission's recommendation for recommended approval for the request of Adam and Sarah Miller for the Stocky property as I read into the public record?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, but trustee Newman and trustee Miller second that motion. Discussion from the village board. Discussion, once again, they're not discussing because they, really good report. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So, you guys are all done. You're welcome to hang out and whatever you want. The next agenda item, Kevin's here. Okay. The next agenda item, Kevin, if you want to have a seat right up here. This is a request for the property owned by Kevin Eckert, the applicant for the property located due east of South 90 West 27455 National Avenue in the village of Vernon. The property is identified by tax key number 2089989 for the approval of the proposed 3-lot land division via certified survey map. Sean?
sure, thank you. Thank you. Brad, you want to flip over here? So the property here is showing the aerial photograph on the overhead screen. It's just northeast of the Newman Hine development property we've been talking about for the last year plus. This property was also talked about a little bit as part of the discussion in terms of whether or not roads should come through and connect to National Avenue, et cetera, et cetera. What the petitioner is proposing, and the petitioner owns the property at this point, is a 3-lot certified survey map. And we'll bring up the CSM. It's a little bit hard to see because it's split by the pages, but if you go between the 2 pages, this is sort of the west half, and this is the east half. So there's essentially a 1-acre lot on National Avenue. There's a 2-acre lot that's about 10.5 acres that also has access from National Avenue. And then the larger lot, the remnant of everything else, is about 18.2 acres. All 3 lots would have access on National Avenue. Lot 3 essentially would have a driveway here, and then lots 1 and 2 would have driveways on National Avenue as well. The petitioner has talked to Waukesha County, since that is a county highway, about access, and has received not essentially the permit, because it hasn't been applied for, but essentially approval for where the driveways are intended to go as part of that. The comprehensive plan for the property is rural residential, which is 1 unit per 5 acres, which is essentially consistent with the zoning of the property, which is rural residential as well, which is 1 unit per 5 acres. So they match. It's about 29-acre property. So if you divide that by 5, you essentially get 5 units, rounding down. A little more land would allow them 6 units, but they weren't quite there. So the 3 lots that are being created here would essentially take up 3 of those development rights. And according to the zoning district, the RRD5 zoning district, you have to essentially, if you don't use up all those rights, you got to figure out where they go. And essentially, they'll, based on a note that's part of the CSM, they'll be applied to lot 3 But as part of that, and as required by zoning, there has to be a deed restriction that's part of this as well, that'll get recorded, that says those lots are on lot 3, there's no more development rights on lot 1 and lot 2 under this RRD5 zoning. So that will come, if this does get approved. There are environmentally sensitive areas. You can see there's wetlands across running east to west across the property. The petitioner is working or has an application into the DNR and the Army Corps of Engineers for essentially getting the driveway across those wetlands. I don't know, have you received approval for that yet?
We have.
Okay, so you have approval. We'll need that before we sign and record the CSM. And then I guess the ultimate plan would be then is, jump back to the aerial photograph here, is that the last concept that we've seen for the Newman Hine property essentially ends with a cul-de-sac, a temporary cul-de-sac that dead ends to the south side of this property. Those 2 remaining development rights as part of bigger lot 3 would, theoretically get served by extending the temporary cul-de-sac onto the property at a later date. Essentially, the note on the CSM says, Lot 3 includes 2 additional residential development rights, allowing the creation of 2 additional lots under RRD5 zoning, provided adequate lot access, frontage, and width can be provided according to the village ordinances and Waukesha County requirements if applicable. There are no additional development rights for lots 1 and 2. So the thought would be that it would take access from the south, but if that's not the case or that changes in the future, then they could potentially access National Avenue if ordinances allow, and so on. So they're preserving those rights. We don't exactly know how they're going to be served, but that's certainly an option. Our surveyor essentially had one comment that talked about an existing ditch that runs as a culvert along ES that comes into the wetlands that has to be shown on the CSM. So we just need to know where that ditch is in that culvert. So not a big deal. I think that's all I have. It would be great to hear from the petitioner about the current proposal. Maybe if you could speak to why the lots are configured the way they are, who's going to own and buy them, and maybe even talk about some of the changes that you're talking about.
Perfect. Kevin Eckert, W247S7405, Scotland Drive, Waukesha. So we're trying to do like a little homestead. So me and my wife, my family would be farming and building on lot 3, and then my sister and my brother-in-law, her husband, and their family would farm and build on lot 2. Lot 1 was a small subdivide because my brother-in-law takes care of his dad, and so we were talking about maybe doing a father-in-law suite or in-law suite in their home and just leaving it as lot 2, but it just made more sense for them for living environments to have a separate lot for him. So, talking with Brad and Sean, they were great with trying to work through this. Jason at Waukesha County, we tried creating this as uniform as possible with having the distance between the driveways. I feel terrible because I thought this was all said and done, but lot 1 was created around 30 feet east of what we wanted. And I have a handout if you guys want me to give it to you, but all of lot 1, there's trees all along ES, and that lot line of lot 1 is all covered with trees, so we need that lot, just the whole lot, to be shifted 30 feet to the west, just so there's driveway access, which was submitted to Waukesha County, and we were approved upon that, but I don't know how I missed that with North Shore Engineering when they actually created the CSM. Lot 1 was put 30 feet to the east, so, and we were talking about maybe trying to change the western portion of lot 2, but we're fine with how it is, and, keeping it perpendicular is perfectly fine.
There's, not that it's a big deal, but on page 5 of the survey map, it says town. Can that just be scratched out and write village? Because we're not a town anymore.
That should definitely happen, yeah.
I mean, if your surveyors change it.
Well, they'll have to make changes anyways, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They'll have to add that ditch on there and then.
What's the ditch? 'Cause I'm not too sure. about that? You said in
The
western
surveyor
lot
says
line?
there appears to be a drainage ditch running across the west side of lot 3 from a culvert crossing along County ES that should be shown. So our ordinances essentially require drainage ways and ditches, to be shown, so
Okay,
there's something in the wetland
gotcha.
there that should be shown as a drainage way.
Okay, perfect.
Kevin, did you wanna add anything else before we open up the town commission and village board?
No, we've got approval through, if you look at the lot line between lot 2 and lot 3, on the western side, we have approval through the Army Corps of Engineers and the DNR for restoring a farm access road, which will also double as a driveway for the future whenever we plan to build. So we already have approval to already restore the farm access road that's been done there. So and we're going to continue to farm in lot 3 and lot 2. Lot 1, he'll just build his home and that's it.
Can I ask what you farm?
We're gonna do corn and soybean.
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yep.
Just wanna make sure it wasn't hampered.
So I'd like to clarify a little bit, or just ask maybe your opinion. So the changes that you were talking about, I think in the last few days, you
Yeah.
mentioned the change that you understood that this was drawn in error and should have been 30 feet to the west. You brought those changes to Attorney Macy's attention, and he recommended that because that was not what was submitted as part of the CSM,
Right.
that could handle at a subsequent meeting. So, because you hadn't seen it, it didn't come in time.
Right.
You know, the application was due at a certain time, so I just want to bring that up because that was his recommendation.
Yep. And you understand, you
Yeah, I felt terrible. I mean, you guys, Brad and Sean, worked great with doing this all ahead of time. So when I was reviewing the document and I looked up with the overlay map, I was like, oh man, like how did I miss this? So I didn't know if that change was going to be a big difference or not. It's just 30 feet, but I totally understand if that's what your guys' decision is. It totally makes sense.
So if you're going to make changes to move that west, you know, you also could consider moving this lot line over if that was, you know, you're going to come back anyways.
If that's something that you guys are open to, if that's what the decision's gonna be, that we would have to come back and you guys were open to that, then I would do that. I just don't wanna delay this any longer if necessary. So if that's something that, just cause we're looking to try and like move forward, I know we're not planning on building right away, but my sister is, and so obviously getting this subdivided so that they can start doing their planning, is important, but if you guys are coming to the conclusion that, no, we want to keep it perpendicular, I totally understand.
Yeah, the issue is that our land division ordinance essentially says lot lines should be perpendicular, side lot lines should be perpendicular to the right of way. That's not always the case. I mean, like this eastern lot line of lot 1 just makes more sense to bring it this way because it follows the driveway pattern and so on. If you brought it this way, then you have this weird triangle shape there, so that makes sense there. What they're talking about doing is angling this up a little more this way to keep more of this farm field on lot 2 rather than lot 1. So that's what he's asking for feedback on is.
Would it be beneficial to hand this out at all? Or no?
Sure, okay, that's fine.
Are there questions for Sean or Kevin? Well, I mean, we're not acting on it, but I mean, it's a good time to bring up discussion. Dan?
The reason for locating lot 1 where it is, why is that?
Just the proximity to his dad. So they're planning on building, just to, kind of like where Sean's at right there, and then the lot 1 home would probably be built in the back area over there, so it's just proximity to his dad.
Okay.
Kevin, how long have you been working on this? I mean, years.
2 years, yeah.
I see.
They're gonna build on that east side.
Sean, you need this?
So they're gonna build back up over there, on the high ground over there, and then
Okay.
his dad would build, kind of where it says the foot marking, on there.
I was wondering why it wasn't all the way up to the east there.
Cause that's where his driveway's gotta
Yeah,
come through.
okay.
So his driveway will come through there, and then the driveway for lot 1 will be on the far west side, so it gives the amount of spacing. Cause Waukesha County really likes to see about 500 feet in between driveways.
And what are your plans for your lot in the future, as far as those two building,
Yeah, I don't know, so, I mean, that's, Sean and I talked about it for a while, and so I think right now, to right where Sean's marker is and to the west is where, we're planning on having crop farm with corn and soy. I work with a farmer who's been farming this for the last 10 years. And then potentially subdividing, there's 2 more lots that could be allocated to that back there. So the goal is to potentially have, my dad might build into there and work with Sean, you guys, and the human development, something like that. But there's no specific plans for that at this point. So.
In reviewing the Hine property, I didn't like the temporary cul-de-sac. I was gonna pull that back and make a round cul-de-sac permanent there.
Yeah, I guess we haven't talked to them again about, that was where the plans were left over, we hadn't revised or talked about revising. If that happens, and there's a chance it does happen, that cul-de-sac doesn't touch your property more and it comes back as we get further into discussion with them, then you wouldn't have that access, and the only way then you'll get the additional lots would be for you to bring a road down or something else to service those, so.
Yeah.
As a possibility, you don't get access to that.
And my thoughts on making a cul-de-sac, a temporary or permanent cul-de-sac would prevent the sewers from being extended.
Right, and that's something that Vernon and McGonigal were real concerned about, is extending it any further than what we've talked about
Right.
initially.
Right.
I don't know, would you be objectionable to that, not having access to that?
I mean, so it's funny where this started from is about 2 years ago when our main goal was to actually attach into that Newman development, but then that
Right.
it kind of fell to the wayside a bit, and so, in talking to Brad probably around, July, I don't know, August, something like that, Brad, we didn't know if this Newman development was gonna go through, what was gonna happen with it, so that's when I talked with Brad, and Brad's like, hey, if you really wanted to build here, we're gonna have to figure out a way for you to access it from ES. And I said, okay, that's fine. So that's why we started pushing this, and we worked with the DNR and the US Army Corps of Engineers for the last 2.5 months and got that all done. I know that there is some potential of maybe even talking with those guys right now, of maybe extending that cul-de-sac into there right now. But there's also a conversation with you guys on the length already of that cul-de-sac to say, is that something that you guys would want to do? Would we want to extend it another 100 feet to go into that property and do that? So.
Yeah, the last time we looked at that concept and talked to them about it, it's been a long time. We've talked about other things, but we
Right.
haven't gotten back to the concept yet, and we will when they bring it in for preliminary plat
Right.
and everything else. And there's a good chance that it gets pulled back, and so just so you know, there's no guarantees.
Yeah, and if that happens, it happens. The reason why we want to do this is to build kind of like a family homestead. I mean, that's our goal here, so.
Do you guys all get along?
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
Well, Sean, do you think you have enough feedback, Kevin, from the Plan Commission? I know you're gonna come back with is there any other comments that the Plan Commission would like to share?
Where's the farm road for lot 3 right now? Is that close to the property line?
Pull back up, there's 2 little, so the farm road's in between where the heavy trees are.
Right.
Yep, right there, and then on the CSM, if you wanted to pull up the CSM.
It's essentially gonna be right here.
Nope, it's to the left of that.
Oh,
That's,
here.
oddly enough, that small area of wetland, that's all heavy forest over there.
So this is it.
That's the farm road, yeah, and that actually used to be around, 200 yards wide. Yeah, it was just, it wasn't maintained, the farm access road wasn't maintained, so wetland kind of formed. I mean, it basically created flooding there, and then there was no wetlands in there even 15 years ago, so.
Any other questions or comments from the Plan Commission or Village Board at this point? Well, Kevin, you know what you gotta do, and you're gonna come back next month?
Yeah, so would you say, so just twofold is, I guess, if you guys don't think that you'll approve the change of the lot line there between, right there, I wouldn't even submit for it if you guys don't think that that would be an approval. If you guys do think it would be approved, then I'll ask, the CSM, and that's totally up to you guys.
In my opinion, it makes sense because this is just wasted land here.
Right.
If Bring it closer to the wetland
I
boundary.
agree. But, yeah, they all agree, Kevin.
Yeah, that's fine, okay. So if I do that and then we bring that 30 feet over, we should be good to go.
Yep,
Okay,
sound good?
awesome. Cool.
We'll see you next month.
Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Sean.
Thank you.
I apologize. I know I hate wasting people's time, and I felt bad that I caught this so late.
So, do you wanna should we just table this then?
Yeah, is there a motion to table, are you coming back next month, Kevin?
I can. It's up to, it's totally up to you guys. And if you guys
So,
feel like it
so,
needs to be, then.
yeah, so we're on a deadline because of when it was submitted, the board has to take action by February 4th, otherwise it's automatically approved per
Right.
state statute, so that gives us January, but I mean, you can do three things, you can table it, you can deny it, or you can approve it, so.
Or ask for an extension.
So, yeah, so we should just table it to
Yeah,
January.
is there a motion to, do you want, individual motions from the plan commission and the village board, or can they do one consent agenda, motion from both? Well, they probably should do it individually.
Plan commission table, but there's nothing for them to act on.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect,
I
Commissioner?
so moved, yeah.
There's a motion, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rinaldi, discussion from the plan commission on the tabling of this, request. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, thanks, Kevin.
All right, thank you guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Victoria Morganroth and Garrett Morgan, you guys wanna come up? The next agenda item is request for the property owned by Victoria and Garrett, Morganroth, the applicants, for the property, located due west of South 103, West 24870, County Road L, Forest Home, in the village of Vernon. The property is identified by tax key number 21509970001 for the approval of disturbance in the environmental corridor for the construction of a new single-family residential home. Sean, do you want to give the plan commission and board an overview, and then we'll ask if Sean missed anything, we'll ask it, yeah. Does that sound good? Yep. Sean?
Sure. You may remember back in August, we looked at this property as well as the property to the west for rezoning from P1 to rural residential 5-acre density, and before that, there was a certified survey map for splitting these properties from the properties south of Forest Home. They were previously owned by Norris. So we knew at the time that it was Brett McGowan that owned both of these properties, and he mentioned at the time that we were looking at a land division for the property to the west, and that this particular property would have a home on it at some point. There was an existing garage on there, I believe it's been removed, is that correct? Okay, and there's a clearing. And if I turn on some of the environmental information here. You can see, and maybe we'll have to see, but there's a clearing here that's sort of defined as outside the environmental corridor. The dark green is primary environmental corridor. So they could build inside this clearing, no problem, they wouldn't need any permits, but when there's a property that has both land inside and outside the corridor, they essentially have to get the disturbance area approved if they choose not to build solely within the area that's outside the environmental corridor. So that's what they're doing. That's what the ordinance requires. The ordinance itself, if your property is entirely within the environmental corridor, like the property to the west is, you essentially get 32,670 square feet, which is 15% of 5 acres. That's what the number is, based on the 5-acre density for environmental corridor. That doesn't have to be approved by anybody, essentially. You just get it, unless you're asking for a land division, and it gets looked at. But if someone came forward to Vince and I looking for a zoning permit for a new home, we would simply allot them that amount of area to put their house and their yard and their septic system and all grading in. But where you have property where it's in and out, it's more subjective because we want to direct people to put their buildings where it's already cleared outside of the corridor. There's no limit, or there's no minimum or maximum disturbance area when you have property in and out, but I would use that 32,670 as a baseline. I don't think we want to see them disturb any more than that as part of this. So they've submitted a plan that essentially shows their disturbance area, which is pink here. The bubble, though, included some of the area that was outside of the environmental corridor. So what they're showing for disturbance is essentially 35,000 square feet, or 0.807 acres. But again, it showed area outside the corridor, which, based on my calculations, was about 5,700 square feet. So I think ultimately what they're asking to disturb is about 29,500, give or take. So it's under that 32,000 limit. They've provided a narrative in their application that talks a little bit about what's on the property and what they've done for cleanup. I'll let the applicant maybe speak to what you've done and what's done on the property and what you cleaned up and why you decided to site the home where you have. So that's all I really have for my overview. The last thing I'd say is that this has to be recorded with the Register of Deeds, so once we get the disturbance area established, on the plat of survey, we have to show this boundary, and this gets recorded along with a note that essentially says you can't do anything outside of that disturbance area. So, would you mind kind of giving us an overview of why you chose to locate the home here, and maybe some of the things that you've done with the property so far?
Yeah, so when we chose that spot, we spoke to Norris and Bartholomew and saw the Smith farm down the road, and found out that Norris 40 or 50 years ago planted a bunch of pine trees. We didn't want to take down any of those pine trees, so we ended up choosing this area that used to be used to graze animals, cows or whatnot. There was just a ton of buckthorn, a ton of overgrown weed trees. Pretty much where we went would not disturb any of the good hunting land or, where we wanted to put our trails for our family and stuff. We took out a bunch of old barbed wire. There were some old buildings in there, some old concrete pads. So we just kind of did what would do the least amount of disturbance to, in our words, the good part of the woods, instead of kind of taking down those pines or anything else that would be, good land to hunt or, put trails on is what we kind of do over there mostly.
Question from the Planning Commission or Village Board? I can't tell you how many people will call on that property when Norris, because you can see some big bucks and coming out of here.
We have people stopping by for commercial or shows that want to come hunt there for turkeys and deer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We keep it family only. We kept the same driveway. We pretty much, we're keeping the yard the same. We're not disturbing anything else around that area. We just want to be kind of just like tucked back in the woods there.
Well, thank God it's not too far back.
No,
Just in case.
It's just the perfect amount, yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the Planning Commission? Dan?
I just said when we made the division or approved the division of the lots there, we knew there was gonna be a house coming.
Right.
And it seems to fit in quite well. And I know you related your intent on preserving every tree you can.
Right.
Yep.
In fact, even planting more, so I see no problem with it.
I don't either.
And part of the division and the rezoning was also, there was a condition that required them to come back and get their limited disturbance approved, so that's what they're doing.
I have a naive question. Why does the proposed septic area look so big?
It's a mountain system, sadly. It's more expensive.
We have to have a system location then plus an alternate in case it fails, but in the mountain, you have to dig up and do it over.
It's probably a big.
Refresh my memory, do you already have your sanitary permit? From the
Yeah,
county?
we have everything.
This is the last piece before you get your permit.
Yeah, the last piece of the puzzle to start going here.
I personally don't see, I know I did talk to, when Sean and I were talking, at sometime when we have a lot of time, Waukesha County established all of our environmental corridors, which were primary, secondary. That's something amongst other things that I'd like to look at someday. Not, because we really didn't have any say in that whatsoever. Not that I'm advocating to, clear cut the village or anything, but I can't tell you how many times we've sent things to the Regional Planning Commission that were established as primary corridor and it came back it wasn't.
Right, it's not perfect, it's certainly not perfect, and if you look at the boundary that's drawn here, doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
But it is what it is until we have Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission redelineated, and we have to change our ordinances on top of it to coincide, so we're stuck with what we have for now. So do you have a copy of my staff report? Do you have this?
I can email it to you.
Okay, so here's the condition that you have to understand, is that the condition of approval is this, and the plan commission board would be interested too. So it essentially says the petitioner shall delineate the approved limit of disturbance within the mapped primary environmental corridor on the platted survey and record it with the Waukesha County Register of Deeds prior to issuance of the building permit. The associated note shall state limit of disturbance for all land altering activities and vegetative removal. And then building, structure, sidewalk, sanitary system, and grading are limited to the disturbance area. So that's what has to happen. So once you get your approval tonight, you have this drawn up. You'll have to remove that area that's shown that's outside of the corridor. So essentially your disturbance area is going to be this plus the pink area. So this is going to be out because it's not in the environmental corridor. So that gets removed. That brings your total down, about 5,700 feet to the 29,000 I talked about. So this little diagram here will have to be adjusted to take out that corner, and that note that I just read has to be added. And so that platted survey with that restriction gets recorded with the county register of deeds. And so once that's done, I can issue a zoning permit, and Vince can issue the building permit.
Yeah, well, I swear it was done, but I think it was because we were kind of against the gun with the time and stuff, so I think that they actually have that done, but it needs to be submitted by that Friday.
Okay, sounds good. So just contact me tomorrow, we can go through that.
Okay, and how long does it take for submittal?
That's essentially, you would be recording that yourself. You'd be taking that to the county register of deeds and providing us proof that it got recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, because Vince won't issue anything unless he's got that
Right.
documentation that you did record it.
Okay.
So you guys really understand what, and if you don't, you can always call Sean.
Yep.
I'm sorry, plan commission or village board, and you saw, the planner's recommendations is this actually what he stated in the traditional, all fees to be paid. So is there a plan commission recommendation to the village board to approve, the, environmental corridor disturbance area as requested by Victoria and Village Morgan for, lot 1 CSM 12438 on Forest Home Avenue? Is there a motion to that effect from the plan commission, a recommendation to the village board?
So moved.
Right, Commissioner, Trustee Millies, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nowak. Discussion from the plan commission. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so that's unanimous. Village board, is there a motion to concur with the plan commission on its recommendation to the village board? So moved by Trustee Newman, is there a second to the motion? Second by Trustee Finch. Discussion, gentlemen. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. All right, guys, you're on your way. Sound good? Thank you. Next agenda item is to set a public hearing on the request of the petitioner by the Village of Vernon to amend the Village of Vernon zoning code for the creation of a new multifamily residential R4 zoning district. Sean, you want to pick it up and give an explanation to the public, or, I'm sure the plan commission knows this, but anybody viewing?
Yeah, so as part of our discussion from last month when the Sedillo application was in front of us for the comp plan amendment and potential changes to the zoning ordinance, originally we talked about amending the zoning ordinance to allow multifamily as a conditional use in the R3 and the RD5 zoning districts. After discussion, it was brought up that a better approach may be to just have a separate standalone district, which I thought was a great idea. So that's what I have in front of you tonight is drafted language for R4 multifamily. This gives the Planning Commission board the option to review every development proposal that comes forward as to whether or not you rezone it, rather than relying on it as a conditional use where they can meet the reasonable conditions, they get approved no matter what based on state law. So this gives you full discretion as to which properties to rezone for this or not. It's pretty simple in terms of the way it's laid out. It mirrors the rest of our zoning districts that refers to the zoning matrix for the permitted and conditional uses. It's got a standard setback of 50 feet, offset of 20 feet, building separation of 20 feet where there's more than one building on a lot. Height's restricted to 35 feet, just like any other district. Accessory buildings is 18 feet. with our standard exceptions, that talk about increases, if you can increase the setbacks and so on, just like any other district. Minimum floor areas are 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, which is essentially what was proposed by the, Sadello agent, which again were higher numbers than we originally had the zoning ordinance when we had multifamily as a conditional use. Lot size would essentially be 15,000 square feet per dwelling unit, exclusive of environmental land. And, you know, essentially what that is that if you combine, if you have more than one unit, if you have 2 units in a property, that's multifamily, that requires at least 30,000 square feet, which is pretty much consistent with what the county would allow for a minimum lot size to have a sanitary system on it. Minimum average width is 180 feet. Density is based on the comprehensive plan, so that doesn't get you any extra density just because you have this district. You still got to look to the plan. Open space is 5,000 square feet per family, which is consistent with what used to be in the ordinance. All multifamily would have to meet our development standards, so architectural standards, landscaping standards, etc. Road access, you have to have access onto an arterial collector roadway. You have to have at least 2 parking spaces, one of which is interior, and all sanitary gets approved by the county. So that's the gist of it. If you look at the zoning matrix, it's pretty simple. The standard residential accessory uses are allowed. Multifamily residential, up to 4 units per building. That's where the limit is set, no more than 4 units per building. Again, that depends on density. That's permitted in the new R4 district. And that's essentially it. Everything else is just standard residential accessory uses there. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Sean. Discussion or comments from Plan Commission or Village Board?
So all these, the numbers, setbacks, height regulations are pretty standard, pretty normal.
For the rest of the residential districts, right?
And I know we've discussed this before, Commissioner Nowak?
Seems to me like these square footages were designed for apartment buildings.
Which ones? The minimum size?
Required floor areas.
They really are. I mean, they're smaller, right? They wouldn't be a side by side, but there could be a fourplex here. So what's allowed is up to 4 units per building. So in something like that, you might potentially get smaller units.
I guess I wouldn't like to see apartments, multifamily, some condominium settings would probably be great.
Well, one thing we can't do is say they have to be condos, because that's a form of ownership, but we can't say condos.
Well, I would like to see ownership on all these multifamily.
Right, but we can't require.
You can't put that in there as a condition.
No.
And I would hope to increase these to like 1,000 square feet, 1,200 and 1,400.
Okay, that's fine. I'll have to talk to. Obviously, this is all precipitated based on a development that's coming forward. These were what were proposed originally by them, so we can talk about that and bring it back. We're not ready to approve it tonight, anyways.
Yeah.
It's just setting the public.
Just setting the public hearing and any potential changes that you want to see. So that.
Right.
So tell me again what numbers you're thinking about.
1,000, 1,200 and 1,400.
It is small. I would say for a one bedroom unit they're almost always small. Like a 1 bedroom unit is going to be small by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I think 1,000 might be too big for a 1 bedroom unit because you're not going to see many 1 bedrooms at more than 1,000 feet.
Good.
Well, I guess the question is why even bother with this at all?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to improve on what you proposed.
I get it, but if we're going to do it, we should set reasonable numbers too.
Yeah, I wanna say that.
Or strike 1 bedroom entirely.
Asking for 1,000 square feet for a 1 bedroom unit, I think my house is like 1,100 square feet if you don't include the basement, and it's a 3 bedroom.
Do we want 1 bedroom units or? That might lend itself more to an apartment then.
The whole idea of doing it as a separate zoning district though was to make sure we have very specific capability to decide.
You don't have to approve anything. So these are the minimums, but if someone comes in with a development proposal you don't like, you don't have to rezone anything to this if you don't like it.
But you're necessarily not tying that development to district zoning.
Right.
I mean, you are, but at the
Well,
same
you're
time.
approving something. When you approve the development, they're gonna propose a lot size, or a size for those units, and you're gonna say yes or no. So if they're 650 and you don't like it, then you can say, you're not gonna rezone it. But I understand what you're saying. there's probably not gonna be many one-bedroom units proposed when we're talking about maximum of 4 units per building. It's not gonna be financially viable to develop that kind of a product, right? They're gonna be 2-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units to get their money out of it, to be able to do it, so. I could see bumping the 1-bedroom up a little bigger, but, I don't know, 1,000, you'll never see a 1,000 square foot one-bedroom unit.
You have to remember, average rent right now is probably around $1,000 in the county, if not more. And somebody,
For a one-bedroom? Oh,
Yeah.
that's a lot more than that.
yeah, so, and a mortgage on a house is the same probably.
So I'd just like to see the standards set a little higher.
Okay, so,
What is the feeling from the commission, or anybody else have a feeling on that?
I think it's important to keep control. If we can, we just go ahead and put this together. And anyone comes in to try to do anything, we have the right to kill it.
right.
So, I mean, that's one good thing about wrecking it, so people just can't, go through the whole process and get it approved.
Right, I mean,
So,
we have good
I mean,
reason.
that's the main reason we're doing this.
Right, it's ultimate control in terms of what you rezone or don't rezone.
And I like this so much better than the CU, no offense, the CU.
What if we just raise the 1-bedroom unit up a little bit, so there's not much difference from the 1 and 2-bedroom? They're gonna say, well, I get more money for a 2-bedroom, so I'm gonna put a 1-bedroom in.
Either that, or we can just strike the 1-bedroom, like you said, I'd be alright with either one. Bump it up 100 square feet or strike it.
But either you're right about the apartments, but we're not gonna approve it anyway.
Not tonight.
No, it's
I
gonna,
mean, I'm talking about we will probably never, someone wants to build apartments here, we're probably not gonna approve it, right?
Well,
well, if it meets, if it's some, I mean, there's
If
gotta
it's
be a
something
reason why
if
you're
it's something that's
denying.
compatible with surroundings, and again, it's no more than 4 units per building, right, so it's a 4-plex. If you thought, and there might be a case where you thought it fit in, it was tucked away and it was an okay thing, but we don't know until it gets proposed at a particular site.
And I'm
so.
sure Brad, cause I know I get phone calls, not every day, but quite often asking, hey, where can I do this? So once, after we go to public hearing, whatever, we will see these.
You're still limited by the comprehensive plan density
Right.
now, so it's,
Yeah.
it's not, the only place that this is gonna be a little more dense is in the residential business transition district, which we just talked, which is on the agenda tonight for the resolution. That allows the most density in that area. Everywhere else, it's just based on the comp plan.
Kinda like the idea of eliminating the 1-bedroom. Makes it more family oriented.
Correct.
Or restricted for someone that doesn't have a family.
Well, you could not have a family.
Could be a grandpa.
Single guy needs a workout room too.
That's right.
And so,
Again.
yeah,
I
I would
don't,
be in favor of that too.
My general thought is, why not allow the tools and then allow us to be able to say, well, it doesn't work for this development. For certain things in this code, for parking is by unit. So if it's a 1-bedroom, that's a 4-unit, 1-bedroom, you're gonna have 8 parking spots, right? If it, to the outside, to everybody else, looks like the same building, but instead of having 2 exterior doors, there's 1, the number of bedrooms could stay the same in that that footprint of the building, but their ratio for parking would be per unit, right, Sean?
it's
Not per
two,
bedroom.
It's 2 per unit, regardless.
Per unit, not
Right.
per bedroom.
Right.
So something like parking would be less, so we might say, well, you're gonna have 2 different, 2 roommates in there that are gonna each take up that parking spot, where is your guest gonna go? So there's a give and take for different parts of this, so I think having the tool there is a barrier to entry, for things like septic systems. It goes just strictly off of the bedrooms. So those types of things, if we kind of limit them too much, then it's just gonna die in the vine, it's not even worth us talking about it.
Right.
But if we have it out there, there might be that case where, hey, that 1-bedroom with the orientation of this lot allows them to get 1 more unit, and then it's a viable project. So I don't want us to, do the work on it thinking that, personally, I don't know why it would matter if it's a single unit. You could have the same couple that, is in a 1-bedroom that does wanna have that second workout room be in a 2-bedroom, and the family living situation is no different, the number of people that are there. Is there a reason that we as Vernon don't wanna have one, one bedroom property? And is it a matter of a density type of thing, like, is there any?
I don't think so. I mean.
Well, again, density's still
Right,
controlled by the comp plan, so that's not gonna change.
right.
That is what it is.
So in my view, it's a form of density of people, number of people in the dwelling unit, or density of buildings on a property, the higher density of, having the additional one, so if it's 4 bedrooms, 4 one-bedroom, that's a 4 unit, so that would be 4 times 1,500 square feet per dwelling unit. So that lot would have to be 60,000 square feet, correct? If it were two two-bedroom units, how big would that lot have to be? 30,000 square feet. So the density of the building footprint versus the occupants is impacted too. So really, in your mind, you're saying, oh, well, we're a lot more dense, but no, you're now having to create a bigger lot, so you're less dense.
Right.
And there could be the workaround too, as you'll see with apartments too, is they'll market it as a 2-bedroom, but in reality, it could be a 3-bedroom because it's 2-bedroom plus a den. So you're getting 3 bedrooms, but really only 2 classified as a bedroom because they're not putting a closet in there. And you'll see that in the apartment or duplex market because of the popularity that it has for all, everybody in terms of the ability to have that extra room.
Right, but in this case, because they're on septic, that shouldn't happen, or that can't happen, because,
It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't.
We wouldn't willingly permit it to be turned into another bedroom, because it's gotta be, the septic system has to be built.
Size for it.
But once the room's created, you don't know how it's gonna be used.
Totally, right. But if someone came to us and said, hey, we got these 2 bedrooms, and with a den, they could be converted to a 3rd, we'd say, hey.
No, you can't.
Was it kind of approved? I guess I side with, I think we should keep the 1 bedroom, that's my vote, if it counts.
Me too.
I'm negotiable on size, but I don't think we should go as high as 1,000.
My recommendation would be to keep the 1 bedroom in there and let the developer try to fit it in.
Right, I do too.
I tend to agree, just because, regardless, they still have to come back and rezone their property. We're gonna see what they're planning when they do that. If we don't like it, we can still shoot it down.
And it's
Still have
gotta
the framework built.
Right, and it's gotta comply with the comp plan too, so it's tied into multiple factors, so.
So, do you wanna look at bumping these numbers up slightly?
I thought they were good, but I'll defer to the commission and board. What would you guys do? Do you like them? Do you want them bigger? Because I really would like to get moving on the public hearing portion, but.
I don't really have a problem with the numbers. I don't wanna go up to 1,000 square, I don't wanna go up so much with square footage. And if we wanted to go up, 50, 100 square feet, I think that's even kind of a lot, but.
In my opinion, I think you would have a better quality development if you had larger square footage.
Which you're also mostly gonna get that, I think, well, the 1,000 for the 1 bedroom's a lot, but for the 2 and 3 bedrooms, if there's someone's building these, they're usually bigger. Especially if they're like side by sides, they're probably gonna be 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 square feet for these things.
If you want a higher quality product, then maybe putting architectural standards in there is going to drive the higher quality product more so than 1 or 2 bedrooms per se.
We do have to follow our development standards, which has some materials, right?
Yeah.
It's not super strict, but there's at least some guidelines there in terms of.
But we could update that or put that in conjunction with it to drive a
That
higher
could-
quality,
those could
higher
also
quality
be
product,
amended.
if that's the desire.
And we haven't looked at those for a long time. I mean, not that we do that now.
Well, we did look
but-
at them, when we did our when we redid the zoning ordinance last time, we brought chapter 144 in and we tweaked some of those things, we did.
So, if there's a motion from the plan commission to, set a public hearing, I would recommend to the village board to set a public hearing. Brad, when would you be able to, do the public notice? I mean, could it be done in January or?
Yes.
Okay. Dan, Commissioner Nowak, I'm sorry.
I would like to go back and discuss the matrix and the
Mm-hmm.
items that are allowed in there.
Sure.
got family daycare and foster family homes.
Right,
In
that's,
a multifamily situation, I don't think that belongs.
I think it's state allowed, or state, you can't stop that from happening in a residential district. Essentially, if you have a home and it's a residential zone, the state requires you to not zone those out. So if it's eight or fewer, it's allowed.
You mean CBRF?
And accessory buildings.
Okay.
You get one accessory building per lot, or does each unit get an accessory building?
It's up to us.
Hmm?
It's up to us when we review them. And when we do the site plan review for these things, we can say, oh, the garage has to be consolidated or not. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the site plan review and the rezone process.
Are there any conditional uses that we would allow in a multifamily?
The only one we have in here is the wireless communications and then also commercial vehicle parking. So if someone drives a truck for a living or brings a school bus home, we have a process to allow conditional use for that.
And I think we might see one of those, I'm not sure if that is a.
We don't have to allow that, but I treat it like the rest of the residential districts. If someone works that type of a job for a living, is gonna bring their truck home, we have a conditional use process.
In a 4-unit building, I would certainly hope somebody would not bring their school bus and park.
Well, a commercial vehicle could not be a school bus though, it could be somebody's work van that just is over a certain weight.
That's right, that's
Mhm.
right.
It could be like a contractor's van, or
Mhm.
somebody who replaces windshield glass in their car, or,
Yeah.
so it's like a really wide range of vehicles.
It is. So, we don't have to allow them, but, there might be instances where you'd want to allow it. And the wireless stuff at cell towers, you can't exclude that from a zoning district anyways.
Right. Any other, discussions on the matrix? Dan, Mike, Mario, Jeff? Gary? Dylan?
Were we in consensus to leave the sizes alone, the unit sizes? I know, Dan, you had ideas and there was a little discussion, but.
I was fine. But
Anybody else?
I'll go,
Needs to go through them first though, right?
Well, we're not actually taking formal action, so it's just
Right.
discussion.
Talk.
is there a consensus? Gary, do you have an opinion on the size?
Sizes are fine with me.
Jeff?
I can go either way, I can go a little bigger, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Dan, what's bigger? Mario?
I don't have good enough feel on the numbers.
Mike?
I'm fine with leaving it at that when we see the individual development.
What does that leave us at?
I'm in favor, yes, go either way, bigger, not, so like, majority?
Sounds like we'll leave them. That doesn't mean,
They'll come-
we're having a public hearing on this as well. That doesn't mean there won't be
Right.
input. It doesn't mean we can't change them at that time if we
Call
hear
your
something.
wife.
We can't change it after a public hearing.
We can go, after the public hearing, we can go more restrictive. We can't go less restrictive.
So if we got a bunch of feedback saying that we were crazy, then we could make it more restrictive, without having
We
another.
can go more restrictive. If for some reason you decide to go less restrictive, we have to renotice the public hearing and do it that way.
Is that okay, gentlemen? Well, is there a recommendation of the plan commission to recommend, to the village board to set the public hearing for January, is that the 8th?
Tenth, I believe.
2024 at 6 o'clock?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Michael. Mike, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Rinaldi. Discussion from the plan commission? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Is there a motion from the village board to concur with the plan commission to set the public hearing for the multifamily residential district zoning district for January 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m.? Motion to concur with the plan commission. I'll make that motion. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Commissioner, Trustee Commissioner Trustee Newman. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So Brad, you're gonna get that done for us?
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Next agenda item is resolution 2020-23-4, the resolution recommending to the village board on a petition by the request of Mackenzie Starworth and Kenneth Seidello for an amendment to the Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan to allow new residential and mixed-use development within the residential business transition land use category. And this is just a plan commission action only. I know plan commission has discussed this several times. Sean, did you want to make any recommendations or state anything to the plan commission?
I don't have much to say, except you saw it last time, the plan commission just wanted to see the resolution before they recommended it to the board for public hearing and adoption, so it's, I think Brad, put it all together.
Yep, I'm just waiting to hear back from Attorney Macy, so my recommendation would be is just leave it contingent on attorney's review.
Oh, I thought he did already, but he did not?
I don't think so, I'll follow up with him
Okay.
tomorrow. And we would set this for February.
Okay, this public
Mhm.
hearing?
So the exhibit as part of the resolution shows the changed language in the comprehensive plan as to what the ultimate definition of the residential business transition category would be. Allowing new residential, allowing mixed use, allowing commercial.
So this motion from the plan commission is to direct staff to set public hearing for February
14th.
2024 at 6 p.m. To do the public hearing for an amendment to the comprehensive land use plan for the change as stated, contingent on legal review.
Mhm.
That motion should have a contingency. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is just
Yeah.
talk. Okay, Commissioner Nowak, discussion from the plan commission? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion passes. Next agenda item is, I think it's minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if plan commission wouldn't mind, we're just gonna make a motion to, well, we don't have to, is it consensus of plan commission that we'll bring this back at the next meeting in January, these minutes? Is there any problem? By consensus, Brad will just bring these back in January. With that, I would entertain a motion from the plan commission for adjournment.
I will so move.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's my commissioner, motion was by Commissioner Nowak, second by Commissioner Rinaldi. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Village board, is there a motion to adjourn?
How do I get more?
Trustee Finch, motion, second by Trustee Newman. Discussion from the village board. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, Plan Commission. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
We'll see you next year. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Brad, I'm not gonna say it because we're gonna.
Well, I'll see you.
So are you going
I'll see you
shop-
tomorrow.
Are you going shopping tonight yet or
Yes,
no?
I am.
You are.